April 5th.
You must be very careful, Margaret. It's the girl.
Witness the birth.
Bad things will start to happen. Evil things.
Of evil.
It's all for you. No, don't.
The first omen.
I believe the girl is to be the mother.
Mother of what?
Is the most terrifying.
666 is the mark of the devil.
Movie of the year.
It's not real. It's not real. What's not real? Who said that?
The first omen. Rated R. Under 17, not a minute without parent. Only in theaters April 5th.
I went to my therapy session on Monday, and I needed this session. I had a tough week the previous week. I had 2 interviews come out, one with me and my mom with the Record Journal, and one with my mom with a local Connecticut channel, and that ended up going national. So that was all great. It's all great when this happens, but it's also really, really overwhelming. I think the realities of being seen by the public at large, it's humbling, humiliating, and 1,000 other feelings all at once. And it's really hard to validate all of them because they're all real. They're all worthy of being felt and explored. But when it's so many opposing emotions all at once, it's hard. It makes you feel a little crazy. So I was having a lot of anxiety last week. So I needed that session. But an hour before the session, I got word that my grandmother had passed. That was Monday. Today's Thursday. And honestly, there's so much that's happened just between Monday and right now that it's hard to believe that all this happened in 1 week. So I think the realities of my grandmother's death didn't really hit me for that session because it was an hour before and I was still processing the previous week. So therapy was good. We honestly just talked about what the previous week was like and how my mood was affecting my husband and my son, because there was a lot of tension this week. I just really couldn't shake any of the anxiety that I was feeling. And because of that, everybody else feels it. My whole family is very sensitive to one another's emotions, and you can't escape it. You have to deal with it, or it's going to be everybody else's problem. So that's kind of what was going on this week. So that was a lot. I had also come to terms with the fact I was discussing this with my mom the week earlier, because I needed to start making moves with my move across country. So I made the decision to book my flight to travel with 2 of my cats from California to Connecticut. And it just seemed like it would be easier for one person to do this, though it's not easy to travel with 2 cats on a plane, especially one of mine. So I ultimately made the decision, and I had booked a one-way ticket April 8th. And then I was going to be in Connecticut for like 2 days and then fly back and then finish the packing of my apartment in Los Angeles and just kind of get ready to go. So I had discussed it with my mom, and we came to terms that I wasn't going to be able to make it to my grandmother's services if anything were to happen prior to me getting there in April. So, of course, I knew as soon as I booked this and this was decided that something was going to happen. So when I got the word that my grandmother passed on Monday, my mom was okay with the fact that I wasn't going to be there, and that was that. I just figured this really sucks. I would have loved to be there, but with the way things are going, doing too many back and forth and trying to travel with a cat and trying to also move. And then I also want my son to stay in school until we're absolutely like 100% out the door. I just didn't really want to disrupt anything. Plus, my husband is closing down his business this month too. So it's a lot. So it was Tuesday at this point. And I had an interview with that news channel entity, I don't know what you would call it, with Inside Edition. I was really hesitant to say yes to them. I don't really know much about Inside Edition today, but I remember it as a kid. I remember it being kind of over the top, a bit sensational, a bit dramatic, and that's kind of not my vibe. But I reached out, I mentioned it to two of my friends. One was the producer with the local news channel that had submitted my mom's piece. So, I trusted them, and they said, yeah, I mean, any exposure is good exposure. So I agreed to do an interview with them. So on Tuesday, I talked with them for about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours. It was like 2 Zoom sessions, and they cap out at 40 minutes if you don't pay for it. So we did 2 of those, and it was basically a full recap of Sky's life and events of her disappearance, and a few questions. And going through that is a lot. It's really taxing, and you try to remain as composed as can be. And I was a bit more on edge given the type of sensationalism that they do with their stories. But inevitably, I am just who I am, and what they get is what they get. So I was trying my best to just let it be, just do what you came to do. And then, so after that interview, about a half hour after, I talked with my mom. I just wanted to know how things were going, how she was feeling. And she started telling me that there's just a few issues. She told me that her brother, my uncle, was not going to attend the services because it was just too much for him. And his daughter, my cousin, also said that they weren't attending because the grief was overwhelming. And then that left my mom, my aunt, my brother, my dad, another cousin. And that's what they had in attendance. And the issue was that there weren't going to be enough pallbearers. Now, my mom's 70, and my mom's like, well, I'm going to have to be one because there's only 6 of us. And I was like, are you fucking serious? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, well, let me see what I can do. Because you don't just fucking tell me that and expect me to not try to make some changes. No. I'm not one to just not come through. I know that she didn't outright ask, but she didn't need to for me to know what she was asking for. So after I talked with her, I paced incessantly and I was alone at the time. Also this day, I knew I had the interview scheduled, so I just expected my husband to leave, but my son ended up being sick. So my husband had to go get my son from school and keep him occupied while I was working and doing this. And it was how everything happens at once. So a sick kid, but no space to be alone to actually work because you only have 3 rooms in your apartment. And yeah, I had to figure something out. So at that exact moment, my husband and my son came home, and then I kind of just jumped into it, and my husband's like, I don't know what's going on. What are you talking about? And I told him, I have to figure out how to get to Connecticut, and I don't want to do a whole bunch of back and forth, so I need to call to see if I can get a flight for this weekend and also fly with 2 cats. I think changing a last-minute flight is one thing, but then also trying to accommodate 2 cats is another, because I had to book 2 seats in order to fly with 2 cats. So I called up United, and I was trying not to, freak out or have a breakdown. But inevitably, once we were going through the flights that could work, the additional costs to transfer everything was all over $1,000 for just a one-way with 2 cats, and just the fee to cancel and transfer your flights. And I was like, okay, I'm not gonna be able to do this. Not now. It's like last minute. There's too much going on. There's my husband's closing his business. My son needs somebody here. We don't have child care here. So there was only like 3 options that could have worked that would get me to Connecticut in time for the services, but also not force my husband to cancel his day of work. And yeah, it was just, it was a lot. And the more we went through the different options, the more I realized that this was just not going to happen. So, the customer service agent, his name was Christopher. He's based in South Africa. He was what I needed in that moment. He helped me in more ways that I could ever have asked for. He was on the receiving end of hearing me cry and swear to myself. Not to him. I didn't direct anything at him, and I think maybe that helped. But he did take sympathy in the situation. And I also made sure I didn't say everything. So I said, I told him I'm in the process of moving. I'm moving with cats, but I am also, a death happened and I need to make these adjustments. I mean, I couldn't really say, hey, I just had this really intense conversation with Inside Edition about my missing sister. Like, that just, it adds a whole other level of just like, this is unbelievable. But if he only knew what I had just been through just only minutes earlier, maybe, I don't know if it would have worked out the same way. But he was able to reach out to his superiors, and I was on the phone with them for almost an hour, and I was just, it got to a point where after, I think it was like 45 minutes, I'm like, once I'm off this hold, because it was a lot of back and forth with the holds, I'm like, once I'm off this hold, I'm just gonna bite the bullet and just get this one flight that I think is gonna work and pay like the $1,200 needed. But then he got on and said that he talked with his superiors, and they're making an exception this time. And they were able to change my flight to one that works, where I'm leaving Saturday night from LA. I have an hour layover in somewhere, and then I'll be in Hartford by 9:30 a.m. So I'm able to go with 2 seats, 2 cats, and I'll be there in time without having the insane. I was nervous that I would be there Monday morning at 9:30 and just have to run over and be delirious with lack of sleep and stress. But I'll have a few hours to rest on Sunday when I get there, so I can help my family out. Services will be on Monday, and then I'll just come back on Wednesday. So it works out. And there was no additional fee. I was so fucking grateful. It's just one of those things where this was the help that I needed in the moment. This is what I needed. And with everything that was going on, I just needed one less thing off of my plate. And they were able to help me with that, and I couldn't have been more grateful. They were so kind. I'm just hoping that everything goes smoothly on my flight. I don't know if you guys have ever traveled with cats. Some cats are totally cool. I have one that's amazing. He'll be totally chill. I have one that I am wearing some animal wrangling handling gloves that are that go up to my shoulders because what they do for security, when you go through TSA, you actually have to take the cats out of their carriers so that the carriers can be scanned for an x-ray. And that's my only fear, really, is taking this one cat out of the carrier. And I hope the realities set in for that when I put these gloves on so that they know what they're in for. And then doing it alone late at night. I'm not good late at night. I'm a very tired person after a certain hour. So this is going to be stressful and fun. So if you happen to be flying out of LAX Saturday night, please pray for me. And today's only Thursday. That's been a lot. Yesterday I tried to take it easy. I got a haircut and I chilled. It wasn't really that chill. No days are chill, if I'm being honest. And then tomorrow I have to submit some paperwork to get a TSA pre-check approval. I don't think that's going to be in time for Saturday. I was hoping that it was going to be in time for at least the April trip, but now that that's all changed, I'm still going through with the paperwork anyways because that needs to be done. And then I'm going to see another thing that lined up. I'm not too sure if this is going to work out, but I have 2 cars. We're moving from Los Angeles to Connecticut. In Connecticut, you're going to need cars, so I do need 2 cars. I need to, at least ship one over. And we were going to come back and then drive across the country before settling into the new life over there. But I have a lease with Honda, and the lease has 1 more year left. But lately they've been calling, like, incessantly, and I don't answer. But they want to buy back the lease. And I thought, I do love this car, but a car is just a car. And if I don't have to ship a car and I can get out of my lease, I'm going to see what they're going to offer me. So I know how car dealerships work. I'm prepared to just walk away because I just don't trust them. But if they can cancel out my lease and if I leave with some money in my pocket, then that's what I'm going to do. I can get a car when I'm finally settled back in Connecticut. And it's just funny how that lines up as well, because I was about to book car transport for one of the cars to be shipped across the country. So that would be really helpful. And it's funny how I know I've been saying life happens all at once. But there's been a lot of good too. A lot of little things that have been helping out to offset the real shittiness of the situation. And the thing is, I think it really is all about perspective, especially in huge situations where you're shifting things. So you're doing things that you're not used to. So things are going to come up. I am excited to move. I'm excited that there's traction in Sky's case. We're going to go to Japan and submit DNA. Those are 2 huge things that I am very excited for. I am going to be moving into a house. As an elder millennial, a house was pretty much off the table at this point. I'm 40, my husband's 45. We've never owned a home. We just don't come from those, while there are certain privileges, we just never really had that ability at this point, not where we are. So we're making that move, and we're making the move because it's going to be my grandmother's house. We're going to be moving into my grandmother's house. My grandmother's house is in a family trust, and it's the easiest way for us to get into a home. So we'll be buying it from the family. They set a price. They will not give us a deal, and I don't blame them. Everybody's stuck. Everybody's, nobody's in a good position, but I am more than happy to make sure that the money my family is going to be paying for the house is actually staying within my family. It's how you show up for one another when you can, and they're really showing up for me with this kind offer to, because I've also, it was always something that I kind of like pestered my mom about, because I'm like, you know, grandma's house is pretty like, it would pretty much meet all of my needs in life. And I feel like I've been saying this to her for maybe like 20 years at this point, and I even like joked with my grandma about it. I think one of the last times I saw her while she was still in her home, I had been like, Grandma, I'd really like your house. Like, I would love it. Only, of course, if you make sure you haunt it for me. And she would like, this is kind of like how we would talk to one another. So it's not, it maybe sounds a little weird. But I think we're all pretty much like self-aware in who we are. So obviously she knows she's old, and she's really, if you've met her, you know that she is all attitude. So it's one of those things where you have to give it to her in order to maintain some sort of respect. So I think she reluctantly agreed. So I will be happy to report if I feel any paranormal activity in the house. But yeah, it's a lot. I think it's a lot. And I think saying it out loud, doing these little therapy note sessions, this one's kind of a long one because I kind of needed to do a big recap. They've been really helping me out. And honestly, I was setting up this recording, and this is my 20th one. I've talked a lot, guys. But on that note, I need to go on with the rest of my day. I've aired out all of the things that have been getting me down. I'm so happy that you guys follow along. I'm doing okay. I hope everybody else is doing okay. And I'll see about checking in next week and reporting back on how all the services went and how the cats did on the flight. I might do some recording, like video recording of this journey. But we'll see. I don't want to stress myself out too much. If you don't hear anything about this, then you can take that as a sign that I'm fully traumatized and I will never speak of it again. But I'm hoping to at least share this insight with you, especially if you guys want to move and travel with cats and are under stressful situations because you're going for a funeral and moving. And actually, just do one thing at a time, guys, if you have the choice. Anyways, this has been a chaotic one. So thank you for riding this ride with me. This has been Therapy Notes, Session 20.